If you have been involved in libertarian communities online, especially around the time of the United States' 2020 election, you have more likely than not run into somebody calling themselves a social libertarian. This person, being an Andrew Yang fanboy, is convinced that they are a libertarian because they like guns, marijuana, and same-sex marriage. They may or may not shout the common adage, "I want gay married couples to protect their marijuana plants with fully automatic assault rifles," while also supporting the advancement of a massive welfare state. Are these so-called libertarians true to the name? For starters, I think it is important that we understand what these people believe. I want to preface by saying that many people have and many people will criticize me for referencing the Polkampball wiki for a basis of defining social libertarianism. But there remains to be any serious literature or institutional advocacy coming from this ideological camp to point towards for definition-shaping reference. Now, according to the Polkampball wiki, the online community in which I believe the concept of a social libertarian largely originated, social libertarianism is defined as a civil libertarian ideology which advocates the enforcement of both negative rights, such as private property, free speech, to not be aggressed upon, and the enforcement of positive rights, the right to health care, food, housing, etc., through a robust and decentralized welfare state, typically utilizing a universal basic income policy prescription. According to adherents of social libertarianism, libertarian ideology should be reformed to support both the concept of negative and positive rights, rather than just negative rights. There is a fundamental problem with the thought process that libertarianism should be adapted to include the concept of positive liberty. The problem with this is that this has already happened with liberalism, creating a split between classical liberalism and, funnily enough, social liberalism. For those not already aware, the popularization of the use of the term libertarian as opposed to liberal was caused as the term liberal had been hijacked by statists, specifically statists who tried fusing the concept of positive liberty into liberalism. Isn't it funny how history repeats itself? Social liberalism was an ideological movement that posited the idea that individual liberty and state implementation of the common good could harmoniously coexist. Social liberals, or as they were called in England, new liberals, questioned the capability of a free market system in fostering a free society on the basis of empirical grounds, as English new liberals saw the apparent success in state manufacturing during the First World War, leading them to believe that there was a greater empirical case for state intervention in the economy. These social liberals opposed the liberal idea, or in modern terms, the classical liberal idea, that a society without much state intervention could foster true liberty. In short, social liberals fused the liberal tradition with the idea of an enlarged state which had greater intervention in social and economic affairs, an inherently anti-liberal concept in the mind of the great Ludwig von Mises. However, this new concept of liberalism resulted in the Franklin Delano Roosevelts and John Maynard Keyneses of the world, tarnishing the term liberal forever. As mentioned earlier, the term libertarian was brought into use in the past century as people who would previously be called liberals were no longer identifying with the corrupted term. So what does this mean for libertarians and social libertarians? Well, if we don't want welfare statists and interventionists to hijack the use of the term libertarian as they did with the term liberal, then we must fight this semantic fight and make it clear who is and who is not a libertarian. It is not libertarian just because you emphasize positive liberty as well as negative liberty by guarantee through state enforcement. That is just the same origin for the modern liberals who we know are not liberal. In the spirit of the great Ludwig von Mises, who continued to identify as a liberal despite the corruption of the term, we must prevent the corruption of the term libertarian from going any farther. In Mises's time, it may have already been too late for the term liberal, but for us, it is not too late for the term libertarian. Do not let statists steal our semantics, and thus the association of the intellectual tradition along with it. Let these so-called social libertarians call themselves social liberals and disassociate from our tradition.